Okay, and I'm going to pin myself on there. Awesome. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to settle in with some breathing. We've been breathing since we were born, but we're going to practice making our breathing a little bit longer, a little bit steadier, and it will help us to feel more calm. I could give you a ton of research on that if you don't believe me, but just, believe me, it really does work when we start to control our breathing, when we start to make our exhales a little bit longer than our inhales. Powerful things happen. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make our exhales a little bit longer than our inhales. So I need a number between 5 and 10. Somebody type it in the chat, a number between 5 and 10. Oh, between 5 and 10. 6. All right, 6 it is. Hang on, my little thing is messed up. So if you don't know, this is my Hobermann Sphere. What you do is it was made for like math because it's like geometric and stuff, but we use it for breathing. So what happens is when you inhale, it looks like this. This is when we breathe in, we hold for a second, and then we close it, and that's an exhale. So we're gonna do that 6 times because we went with 6 breaths. So inhaling, holding, and then exhaling. That's 1 breath, not an inhale. Like we count the whole breath, inhale and exhale together. So don't worry, I will count along so you know where we're at. But go ahead and find a nice comfy seat, a place where you're not going to fall asleep. Shoulders are back and down. Your lungs have room for air. We got to make sure our lungs have room for air. And when we're ready, we will begin. In through the nose. Hold. And out. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. And that's it. Really helpful to have a visual sometimes, something to follow along with. And when we're at the clubhouse in person, I have people lead this for me. But since we're not here in person, I have to lead it. Bummer. I wish you guys could do this for me. But that's what the Hobermann Sphere is. We use this one a lot. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to play a little game. So I had a sheet that had a bunch of these scenarios on them, and I have misplaced it. So I'm going to have to make them up out of my brain. So bear with me. We're going to play a game called Mindful or Mindless. So when we talk about being mindful, it talks about being intentional, caring, alert, aware, paying attention. That's what mindfulness is. There's a saying in England if you go to England and you get onto the subway, there's a sign that always says, mind the gap. Mind the gap means pay attention to the space between the train and the platform because you go on a trip and fall in it if you don't pay attention. So mind the gap means be mindful of the gap. Pay attention to the gap. That's what mindfulness is paying attention. So there are ways in our life that we can be mindful, and then there are ways where we can be mindless. So if someone says the word mindless, it usually means you're doing something mindless, like you're doing a task, but you're not really paying attention to it. I was cleaning the bathroom mindlessly. It means you're not really aware of what's going on. Or I was just mindlessly walking to class. It means you're not aware of anything around you. So we're gonna play a game. Mindful or mindless. Here we go. And you are gonna type in the chat which one you think it is. Okay? So here's scenario number 1. There was a statue in a major city that they recently had to relocate because too many people were walking into it while looking at their phones. Mindful or mindless? Let's see, make sure everybody's answers get in. Yes, mindless. If you are too busy looking at your phone to pay attention, if you're going to walk into a statue, That's pretty mindless. Okay, let me see if I can think of another one. This is when I had a bunch of them written down. Now I'm gonna have to come up with them in my brain. Okay, tell on myself a little bit. Right after my son was born, I was drinking a cup of coffee because, newborns don't sleep very much. So I was not getting any sleep. And one day I'm drinking coffee, which was like my life force at the time. I needed coffee to stay awake. And I could not find it. I had had a cup of coffee and I did not know where I put it. I looked everywhere. I looked in the kitchen. I looked in the den. I looked outside. I looked in the bathroom. I looked everywhere. Could not find my coffee cup. It had magically disappeared. Later, I go to get some lunch and I found my coffee cup sitting in the pantry full of coffee that it was now cold. Mindful or mindless? Oh, yes, very mindless. And part of it, again, I'm going to claim that the sleeping was a problem, but you do a lot of things mindlessly when you're, sleep deprived, but that was definitely an issue of mine. Okay, mindful or mindless? Let me think. Um, at Disney World, there is a hotel called the Wilderness Lodge, and it's kind of like a cabin theme. It looks like you're in this, lodge out west in the wilderness, and it looks kind of like a rustic mountain lodge, with lots of decorations everywhere. And underneath the desk, there are little animals, like woodland animals, at like 2.5, 3 feet high. And when they asked Disney why they decided to put a bunch of decorations under the table where almost no one could see it, they said it was so children could see it because it was right at kid eye level. Mindless or mindful? Do, do, do. Yes, that was mindful. Why? Why was it mindful? You can type in the chat. I'll give it a second. I don't care about spelling. Think about it. Why was that a mindful thing to do? Yes, because they were thinking about what the kids could see. They were aware. They were paying attention to, yes, adults come to Disney World, but who is Disney World mostly geared towards? Children. So they wanted to make sure the children could see something great. Isn't that awesome? I thought that was so amazing and powerful. Really intentionally done. Let me think of another one. If you have one, you're feel free to put it in the chat as well. You don't have to. Um, okay, I got one. You go outside and you notice for the very first time in a long time that it's really cold outside because it's fall now. So you walk outside in the morning and you go, ooh, it's a little chilly. And you think, I maybe need a jacket. Mindless or mindful? Mindful, yes, because you've gone outside and you've paid attention. On the flip side of that, the mindless thing would be to walk outside and not really notice. Maybe you're in a hurry. You end up on the bus or going to school or waiting outside your classroom where it's cold and then going, oh no, I forgot my jacket at home. Yeah, probably because you weren't really paying attention, right? We do this all the time. This is what it is to be human, but that's what it is. The difference between mindless and mindful. Let's try to think of other ones. Oh my gosh. Oh, this happens a lot in pandemic life at my house. Um, I'll tell you, today I can't really list to you all the things I've eaten because I've kind of just been snacking around all day. So on those days where you're just kind of snacking around and eating stuff, is that mindful or mindless? Yes, it is mindless. It is mindless because we're not paying attention, right? We're just kind of shoving things in our mouth. And why do you think people do that? Why do you think we just kind of eat without really noticing what we're eating? Yeah, we're bored. Exactly. A lot of people, when we get stressed, we tend to get like a little bit of relief when we eat something, but then that ends up kind of not being so great because then we're eating a bunch of extra stuff we don't really need. All right, here's another one. You go over to a friend's house and their family has cooked a really big meal for you. Um, and you're sitting at the kitchen table after the meal is over. Everyone else goes into the next room, maybe to play some games, hang out, and you notice that your friend's parent is at the sink washing the dishes. Now, this is going to be a two-part question. Let's say you notice that, and then you just go and play games, mindless or mindful. Yes, mindless, right? Because you're not really doing what you could be doing. There's a little bit better thing. Now let's say you notice that person is at the kitchen cleaning up and you say, "Is there anything I can help with?" Mindless or mindful? Yes, mindful because you're paying attention to what other people are doing for you. Here's what happens a lot of times. They say, "No, thanks, I've got it. You're good." And then that's okay. But a lot of times people really do need help. But especially if they're not your parent, they may not feel like they can just order you around. So that's why it's really great when you're being mindful to be considerate of how you can help other people out. That's being mindful and just offering. Sometimes they say no, and that's okay. Y'all may not know this because I'm not sure you guys can drive yet, but I'll tell y'all this happens to me all the time, all the time. After a long day of work, maybe I'm stressed, maybe I'm exhausted. I get into my car, I start thinking about conversations I had that day. I start thinking about what I'm going to cook for dinner. I start thinking about um, maybe what last weekend I was going to do, or, maybe my kid got in trouble at school that day. I got a little message on my app that says, you got in trouble. Yeah. And then suddenly I'm at home and I don't remember anything about my car drive. I can't tell you if I saw another car on the road, if I was speeding, what the weather was like. Mindless or mindful? Yes, mindless. We say this is autopilot. When you get into autopilot mode and you just kind of like turn your brain off to what's going on in front of you and just get distracted. That's me all the time in a car. I get in there and it's like I've driven that road back and forth from my work to my house for 7 years. And so I could drive it in my sleep. I know every sign, every turn. Anytime somebody adds something to their yard, I'm like, oh, that's new. I know that route so well, but that doesn't mean that I need to check my brain out because I'm still not really paying attention, right? I'm just kind of like going through the motions. That's pretty mindless. And if something were to change, a deer jumps out in front of me, or maybe there's a truck that stops really quick and I don't pay attention, now I'm in trouble because I've checked my brain out. It's going to take me a little bit longer to react, and that could be the difference between going home or having a wreck. So good to be mindful. Um, if you did everything mindfully, life would be really different. Life would be really different. I'm not saying we can't check our brains out from time to time. You can do that. But life would be different. Let me tell you, I am the queen of forgetting things. I am the queen of forgetting things. Um, like this paper. I was supposed to have this thing today that had all these scenarios on it. I'm having to make them up out of my head because I mindlessly left it somewhere. Or I printed it off and I didn't check to see if it actually printed because sometimes my printer doesn't print. I just went print and then moved on with my life. Not mindful. So now I'm paying the price because I'm having to make this up instead of having a reference sheet to look at. Have you ever done that before? Have you ever forgotten where you put something and it just kills you? You're like, what did I do with this? Did I take it home? Did I leave it at home? Did I leave it in my classroom? No? Lucky you, Riley. Lucky you, because I do this all the time. Look at this thing right here. This is my cell phone. I cannot tell you how many times a day I look for this thing because I mindlessly just set it down. Imagine just if you mindfully paid attention to where you put your phone every time you set it down. You would never lose it again. Never. You would always know where it was. Also, there is a squirrel right there digging a hole, and it was loud. So because I'm paying attention, I can mindfully notice there's a squirrel right there. So I need to let you know that's why I just jerked my head around, because there's a squirrel just chilling, digging a hole. That's the other beautiful thing about mindfulness, is that yes, it helps you be more intentional with what's going on with your life. It helps you to not be forgetful, to be more considerate of others, to pay attention to what's happening, but also you notice some really cool stuff when you're being mindful. You miss a lot of things when we're buried in our phone or when we're thinking about stuff and not really noticing what's going on around us. Have you ever tripped over something because you didn't notice it was there? Hello, me, all the time. I have 2 small children. There's toys all over my house, but I tend to just go down my hall. I got to get to the kitchen, or I need to go back this way, and I trip over stuff, or I step on a Lego. The pain of stepping on a Lego. Oh my gosh, story for another day. But if I was more mindful about just where I was stepping, then I would save myself a lot of painful feet. So, mindful or mindless game set aside. Let's do one mindful activity together, and then we will be done. So this is a tense and release activity, a really good activity for going to sleep at night. If you're having issues going to sleep, this is a great one. If you have a lot of stress, this is another good one. The problem with stress is that we tend to get the stress hormone is cortisol. It gets released into our body. Adrenaline sometimes gets released, which is like the fight or flight, like I need to go run or I need to go fight something hormones. All of that stuff gets released in our body when we get stressed out or when we see something threatening, and it has no place to go. We're not fighting a saber-toothed tiger. We're not going out and running a marathon. So all of that negative energy just sits in our body. And that does really bad stuff to our heart. It does really bad stuff to our blood pressure. It can do really bad stuff to our brain. So this is a way to take those negative feelings and give them a place to go. With tense and release, we're going to give that energy a place to go. Even if you're not stressed, even if you feel great, this is still a good activity to do to help calm yourself down. So what you're going to do is I'm going to give you a different body group, and you're going to tense those muscles up. And then when I say release, you're going to release. Okay? Easy enough. So let's start with our feet. So I want you to, where you are, just go ahead and tense up your feet. Just squeeze your feet up inside your shoe. I'm not wearing shoes, doesn't matter. Just squeeze all the muscles in your feet really, really tight and release. Awesome. Next, your legs. The whole leg. I want you to go ahead and squeeze those muscles, tense them up, tense them up, tense them up, all the way up, hips included, and release. Perfect. Now our core. Go ahead and tighten up your abs, tighten them up, and release. Awesome. Arms. Let's do just our muscles in our arms. We'll get to our hands in our second. Tighten up your arms. Just tighten them up, tighten them up, tighten them up, tighten them up. Ooh, squeeze and release. Now our hands. I want you to make a fist, 2 fists if you want, and squeeze them. Dig in. Squeeze it like you're going to break something. And release. Whew, that one feels good. I think because we attach a lot of stress or a lot of anger with our hands. That one feels very powerful. Okay, this is the funny one. You can look away from your camera if it bothers you. We're going to squeeze up our face muscles and make some ridiculous faces. If you don't want people to see you, that's fine. I don't care. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you to squeeze up your face muscles and just scrunch every muscle in your face, starting now. And release. Whew. Oh my gosh. All right. Last one. We're going to tense up everything. As many muscle groups as you can. You're going to tense up your whole body. And we're going to hold this one a little bit longer, and then we're going to release, okay? So get ready and tense everything. Face, feet, hands, legs, hips, core. Hold it a little longer and release. Do you notice that? I just took a deep breath and I didn't mean to. My body just responded to that with a literally I did not plan that. Could not help it. Just when I let it go, I took a deep breath, which was awesome because it was really necessary, I think, and a way that my body is processing letting go of a lot of that stress. So that's a great one to do. Again, if you're laying down in the bed, just go feet, legs, arms, core, whatever. You can even go head to feet. I don't care. But it's a great one to do when you need to get some energy out. Even if that's just happy energy, but you're sitting in class and maybe you can't, do anything, or you're sitting at home in front of your screen and you need to get some energy out, this is a great one to do. So hopefully that will help you and be a helpful tool for you. I used to do that one when I was a kid because my mom taught it to me, but I've read about it in mindfulness texts afterwards. But I gotta sneeze. Hang on. Sorry. My mom taught me that to help me go to sleep. So sometimes I have some issues going to sleep at night when I was a kid. So it worked for me as a kid, but also I've read about it in mindfulness books ever since. So we have maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. So if you have a mindful or mindless story that you want to share in the chat, you totally can. I'm going to try to think of some more because I think these are pretty fun, especially since they have to do with mostly embarrassing moments about myself. So that's got to be a riot for you guys to hear how goofy I am. Let me think. Oh, I'll tell you this. My husband ordered takeout from my favorite restaurant this weekend for my birthday, and casually mentioned on the phone to the people at the restaurant that he was picking it up for my birthday, and they gave me a free piece of cake that had on the box written happy birthday on there. So mindful or mindless? Mindful. Yes, remembering somebody's birthday, it goes a long way. That's a powerful thing. Yep, mindful indeed. How about we check our phones? Like if you look at your phone, I don't know if your phone has this, but my phone has like a, I don't know, like a setting on there, an app on there where you can go on and see like how many times did you open your phone, like did you make it turn on, or did you make the screen light up, or how many clicks did you do. And there are days when it's like I look at my phone hundreds of times a day, hundreds of times. Mindful or mindless? I would agree. I would agree that's mindless. I think it's fine to open your phone. Like, obviously, you need to look at your phone from time to time, right? But if you're just casually opening it and looking at the time, or have you ever, gotten your phone or your tablet and you were like, oh, what time is it? Okay. And you're like, I have no idea what time it was. I looked at it and I have no idea what it was. Like, I just read it and did not compute in my brain. That's pretty mindless, isn't it? So, all I'm saying is you can look at your phone, just be intentional. What are you looking for? Like, what app are you trying to go to right then? Are you trying to go on social media? And then if you're going on social media, what are you trying to gain? Are you trying to feel good? Are you trying to be entertained? Are you trying to get away from what's happening in your environment? How many of us have done that before, where we don't like the situation we're in? Maybe the people we're in make us uncomfortable, or we're bored, or we don't want to be present in what's happening in real life. So this is what we do. How many family gatherings have I been to where I'm like, I want to be anywhere else, so I'm going to look at this? Pretty mindless, because there's honestly pretty decent people in my family that I could have probably made a conversation with, but instead I check out. Sharon, we're playing a game, mindful or mindless. So it was really fun. Is there something mindful or mindless that you've done recently that you would like to share?
I've been on TikTok very mindlessly.
TikTok. Yeah, so we were just talking about social media. Social media is fine. I'm not here to tell you not to be on social media, people, but you gotta ask yourself, why am I on social media right now? Am I on social media because I'm giving myself a little break, or because I have nothing to do, or I want to be anywhere but here, or I'm bored? And then all the, like, let me tell you what will rock your world. That same app I was telling you about that says how many clicks you did, how many hour, or how many times you open your phone, it will tell you how many hours you're on each app. Oh my gosh. If you look at how many hours you're on certain games or apps, it's like, huh. Like there's a game, you may know it, called Stardew Valley, which I love. Stardew Valley. I played it a lot after my son was born because I would be up, with him all night long. And so I'd be playing the game just to kind of pass the time. And I have got 22 hours total in that game. And I'm like, almost an entire day of my life have I spent altogether on a game. And I'm like, is that worth it? Is that worth it that I spend 22 hours of my life on a game? I mean, maybe if it gives me a lot of joy, maybe. But I looked at that and I was not like, yes, 22 hours of my life. Awesome. I looked at that and was like, I don't have that many days of my life, We're not on the planet forever. And I spent a whole day of my life playing a game. But, it's whatever. So just pay attention to when you're being mindful and when you're being mindless, and then try to adjust. That's it.